Thanks, Elsie. Okay, so we've got 25 people. Let's begin. This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Annual notice of this meeting was provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on January 6th, 2021. In addition, notice of this meeting via Zoom was faxed to the Home News Tribune and emailed to the Star Ledger and the Highland Park Planet on January 29th, 2021, and was posted on the Borough website at www.hpboro.com and on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, 221 South Fifth Avenue, Highland Park, New Jersey, on January 29th, 2021, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. As mayor, I preside over this council meeting and may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement or participation in the virtual meeting if the participant's statement does not adhere to the 3 minutes provided to each participant for public comment, or if the statement is abusive, obscene, and irrelevant. I'm going to ask Councilwoman Foster to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance since she has the flag. Oh, Phil?
I don't have the flag tonight. Phil has the flag.
Okay, well then, Phil, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everyone is ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Phil. Roll call, please.
Mayor Brill-Mittler.
Here.
Councilwoman Canavera.
Here.
Councilwoman Foster.
Here.
Councilman George.
Here.
Councilman Hale.
Here.
Councilmember Hirsch.
Here.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Here.
Borough Attorney.
Here.
Borough Administrator.
Here.
Okay. Do any council members have questions on the agenda for tonight? Okay, seeing no hands, we'll move on. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular work session meeting held February 2nd, 2021 as distributed?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman George.
Yes.
Councilman Hale.
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Okay, we now move on to the council reports. This week, or over the last couple of weeks, there has been a lot of discussion about our snow removal process after the last storm. And because of that, I'm going to go out of order tonight in council reports and ask Council President Phil George, who has the responsibility for Public Works, to report to the council and to the public. Phil?
Thank you, Mayor. We're all still recovering from the record snowstorm of January 31st through February 2nd. At one point, we had almost 2 feet of snow on the ground, and that was followed by 2 lesser storms. We have another one coming on Thursday night with up to 8 inches of snow forecast. There have been a lot of complaints, thank yous, and suggestions regarding the borough's efforts to clear up the roads in the borough. We are not the only municipality in North Jersey or even across the eastern seaboard still dealing with the aftermath of the storm, but we in our own borough are working on continuing our cleanup and improving our protocols for heavy storms, which we have not had to endure for a long time. During the storm, the mayor, administrator, and I were in contact through the day and night with DPW and the police department. DPW crews reported in on Sunday at 2 p.m. and began salting, and all employees were in by 6 p.m. through midnight. All 8 plow trucks were deployed throughout the storm, and employees were working on borough sidewalks and parking lots as well. On Monday, the shift continued at midnight for 24 hours straight through the day, with all equipment deployed. On Tuesday, DPW worked midnight to 2 in the afternoon, again with all equipment deployed. We all know that the snow is very heavy and deep, and this was a significant problem. There is nowhere for it to go. However, the borough continued cleanup while we also had to return to essential services. We had one plow breakdown, which was repaired at DPW during the storm, along with a salt spreader, which was also repaired at DPW during the storm, and a plow which broke and was repaired at DPW during the storm. We replaced a snow blower which quit working with a new one without waiting around. One new thing, we deployed our payloaders and backhoes with their front end buckets to actually remove snow when and where we could, and I've asked that we make that a regular part of plowing protocols. I've already requested specifications to purchase a second Kubota ATV with bucket as well as plow attachments. I reached out to the Department of Community Affairs today to see if there are training sessions for methods for snow removal, so we might be able to send some DPW employees to learn some of the new skills that DCA may have. You may have noticed that DPW crews were out yesterday, a holiday for DPW, clearing curb access at the corners. The storm left crosswalk access a major problem due to the depth of the snow and how far it extended into the road. I toured the town on Saturday and Sunday and made a list of crosswalks which had not been cleared, and while the responsibility of who should clear these crosswalks is another question for a calmer time, we just could not let the issue go any longer and wait for melting. DPW employees gave up their holiday to come in and work, and even some volunteers were out clearing crosswalks over the weekend as we concentrated at first on the commercial district and the roads feeding into the downtown and the schools. Public Works, the mayor, administrator, and the superintendent are working on new and updated protocols which may make snow removal in these heavy storms easier, quicker, and make roads and sidewalks more passable quicker. It will take some work, it will take some money as well, but we have been discussing additional equipment and staffing at DPW already. We've also dusted off ideas which others, including myself, put forward years ago, such as remote parking access, alternate side parking, and moving parked cars street by street to allow quicker and fuller plowing in the days following a storm. Some may work, some may not, but we'll be moving forward and reviewing all suggestions which everyone has received during the last week or so. We also have better internet-based technology than we had before, and I think that we can implement disseminating storm-related information as well as resident reporting of problems. But if these weather incidents are to become more common, we will need to be prepared, and we will need to be going over all suggestions as we all try, as always, to do better. One thing we need to keep in mind is this is nature at its worst, and we can have all the plans and all the equipment and all the people, and we still have to deal with nature has to deal out. STAC has prepared a revised RFP for tree planting this year and presented it at their Zoom meeting last week. They are concerned with replacement of trees which do not survive the initial year, as well as selection of stock, and have incorporated some important changes which should place that burden on the contractor and make it much easier for the borough to implement its tree-friendly programs. The Environmental Commission has been discussing changes and updates to our ordinances to make Highland Park more electric vehicle friendly, and has recommended that the Public Works Committee review our ordinances with this goal in mind. They are also asking that we revisit the difficult task of placing at least one EV charging station on Route 27 in the downtown area, which requires us to deal directly with NJDOT. For those of you who have or are interested in electric vehicles, this has been one of our most difficult battles that we've had in the last 5 years with the DOT, besides the road diet down in the Lexington, Jefferson area. That's all, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council President. And I just want to say that I have asked Council President Phil George, Borough Administrator Terry Hover, and the Superintendent of Public Works, Mike W., to put together a cohesive plan for moving forward. As Phil mentioned, that may include equipment purchases, hirings, we're not sure, But Phil, I would ask that as you and Terry move forward with some of your thinking on this, that you keep your Public Works Committee from council well advised on the things that you're thinking about.
Yes, Mayor, our meeting is Thursday. We're going to begin work on Thursday.
Very good. Okay, I'm going to continue in order of how you appear on my screen. So up next, Councilwoman Carnevera, do you have a report?
Yes. First, I would like to apologize to our residents, but I'd also like to thank Mike W. and Scott and Annette in the code enforcement office who were on top of every call I gave them. They were active in helping residents, and I do appreciate all their hard work. February is also American Heart Month. This is a time for us to reevaluate our heart health habits. Some of the ways we can do that is know your numbers, such as your blood pressure and cholesterol levels, and try to be more active. The Human Relations Commission is meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. The Zoom link is on the Borough website. The Board of Health would like to please remind everybody to wear their masks at all times in public. And please follow them on their Instagram account, HP Borough, BOH, for updates and information. The Commission for Universal Access is still looking for input into events that the community would like to see that promote inclusion for all our residents. Before I report on the food pantry and what we have available, I would like to give a huge thank you to our residents. I posted on Facebook about the shelves in the pantry being low because we didn't get deliveries from 2 organizations we get deliveries from. And so many people in our community have stepped up and ordered from the Amazon wish list. To me, it is such a pleasure to live and serve in a community that is so caring. We truly are a village looking out for one another. And I want to thank all of our residents for that help. If you need help with food, we do have some programs that are available. We have the Highland Park Community Food Pantry, which is open the 2nd and 4th Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. and also again from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and the Saturday following that Thursday at 9:30 to 10:30. Donations, again, like I said, could be made using their Amazon wish list. Highland Park Gives a Hoot. Their food pantry is every Tuesday at Zone 6 Teen Center from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. Donations can be made by mailing a check to the Borough Hall with a memo that it's for the Highland Park Gives a Hoot. Between these 2 programs, we are serving over 300 families. I know the food pantry this week, I believe, got 2 or 3 new families that they signed on. Also, all children in the borough under age 18 can receive a free lunch Monday through Friday at the high school cafeteria between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Your child does not have to be in district or in the school. You can get a free lunch from them. The Mental Health Commission has a Facebook page called the Highland Park Mental Health Commission. Right now, they had their first meeting and they're in the process of making a flyer with resources for mental health services. They're also looking for new members. If anybody's interested, please email me at tcanaver@hpborough and I'll pass your information along to the chair. And if anyone is having a mental health crisis, please reach out for help. The Middlesex County hotlines are Rutgers Universal Behavioral Health Care, 855-515-5700. Raritan Bay Medical Center hotline is 732-442-3794, and they are available 24 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Councilman Hirsch, do you have a report?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute here. I I just wanted to, I think, while Council President George did speak about the snow removal, I just wanted to thank the countless residents who reached out to me and to other members of the council with concerns about snow removal. We're all residents here, and obviously we take the concerns very, very seriously. And we're all shoveling out and sharing the same experience that you do. My car got stuck twice on my own street, so it is an issue, and I look forward to, as a member of the Public Safety Committee, I look forward to working with Council President George and Councilwoman Canavera on proposals. I also did want to just remember that in the work that we do here on the council. Even though we may be experiencing hardship, anybody who has any kind of obstacle to anything that the borough offers if one person can't move down the sidewalks, if one person can't get to a medical emergency, if one person can't get to the grocery store because of or because snow is a contributing factor to their level of access, then it has to be addressed. People who are disproportionately affected by snow emergencies, people with mobility challenges, who can't get around, who don't have access to transportation or transit, who don't have a car, who don't have neighbors or family members who can help them. That is the priority, and that's the lens through which the borough has to operate. And I think you have a united front on this council that understands that. And in the name of equity, that basic municipal functions need to provide for the people that need it most. Same goes with our public schools, and I don't want to get into any of that, but it's the people that need access to these public services the most are the ones that we have to serve first. And I think that's a really healthy and important lens through which to operate. So that being said, the rest of my report, Highland Park, I have the Arts and Recreation Committee. Highland Park Recreation is hiring for spring programming positions, and Sunday afternoon availability is a must. Please apply online at www.hpboro.com. And for additional information, please email hprecreation@hpboro.com. The deadline to apply is March 8th. Additionally, seasonal recreation positions. Highland Park, the Department of Recreation is seeking qualified applicants for part-time and seasonal positions for the spring youth recreational program season. That includes flag football, baseball, softball, and soccer. These positions have an hourly rate of $12 an hour. Should be 15. Seasonal recreation employees work in different capacities, included but not limited to referees, umpires, scorekeepers, to work with our various youth recreational programs. That includes, again, soccer, basketball, baseball, softball, during the fall and winter and spring seasons. Speaking of youth baseball, registration is now open for youth baseball, softball for grades kindergarten through 7th. Practices and clinics will start in March, and the regular season will start April 11th. This is for grades. Games will be played mainly Sunday through Thursday, with practices taking place once a week, Monday through Thursday, between Monday through Thursday, excuse me. Equipment needed is a baseball mitt, cleats, and protective eyewear for children who wear glasses. And some teams will be asked to wear chest guards. We need parent coaches, volunteers needed for all teams. And so please email hprecreation@hpboro.com for more information. All protocol from the New Jersey Guidance for Youth Sports Activities will be followed. This includes daily health checks, hand sanitation, sanitization, excuse me, and the wearing and mask wearing. And you can register at www.highlandparkrec.com. Do you want to, and I say this as a writer, legitimately, do you want to get paid to write? Because the Highland Park Arts Commission is looking for a diverse group of 8 to 10 writers, any age, any race, ethnicity, or cultural background, to participate in the second year of Race Matters, a spoken word jam. 8 to 10 writers will participate in this 8-week workshop. It's once a week on Zoom, to explore and create spoken word pieces about their experiences with race. It's run by award-winning national spoken word touring artist Pandora Scooter, who is also the former chair of our Highland Park Arts Commission. And these workshops will be geared toward both the technique of writing spoken word and performing spoken word. Writers of any experience level are welcome. Times, days of the workshop will be determined once the participants are chosen. To apply, please send an email with your reason for being interested to Pandora, that's Pandora, at Pandora Scooter, that's PANDORASCOOTER.com. And please do that by February 24th at noon, because we really want to get this program up and running. I did just want to share a little bit about, with our public schools easing back into in-person education. I did propose a few ideas that I think the borough can be exploring to complement that effort and to maintain COVID levels within our community, and that includes and specifically in my area. Through the Department of Aging, providing local COVID resources, working with Kim McGraw over there and some really talented volunteers who are helping people get access to vaccinations. And I'll give a shout out to Abby Stern-Cardinal and Rebecca Hirsch on that, about moving our vaccination advocacy from more of an ad hoc effort to a more formal one that we can promote and perhaps get more volunteers as well in this effort. And as well as a vaccination education campaign, we have to be mindful that there are communities in town who are more difficult to be reached or have questions or hesitations about vaccines. And I'm not talking about those who disregard the vaccination science, but persons who may be hard to reach, disenfranchised or disengaged. And I had a really nice conversation with Councilwoman Canavera about this, and I really look forward to working across silos with the Mental Health Commission, the Human Relations Commission, and the Mayor and Council on showcasing what we're already doing, and then really being out front on making sure that people know the A to Z about vaccination, and also how to conduct themselves in public, including wearing masks when outdoors. That's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And I'm glad you brought up the equity issues that we need to keep in mind at all times, because I did mean to give a special shout out to Councilwoman Canavera, who, as she mentioned, had been talking with me and the borough administrator and Phil George and Mike W. on a regular basis, and Scott Brescher on a regular basis throughout this last snowstorm. I want us also to keep in mind that it's not just our residents with disabilities, but all of our seniors who have been locked up because of COVID, and then were trying to make their way around town, and that became difficult for them as well. If you have any time at all to reach out to a senior who is living alone, please pick up the phone and call them. They do really appreciate hearing from any of you council people. So please keep that in mind. Okay, next up we have Councilwoman Kim Cho-han.
The Community Development Block Grant Committee will be holding their public hearing on applicants February 23rd, 4 p.m. A meeting will be noticed with details and virtual meeting links. I also want to comment on the recent storm. I understand the many residents' concerns and frustrations regarding the lack of snow removal from our recent storm. I read that the storm could truly be a once-in-a-generation type event, with more than 70% of the U.S. snow covered and Texans' lives turned upside down this winter. I trust Council President George and his committee has taken your concerns seriously and working on improvements to ensure this will not happen again in the future. And last but not least, tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent season for our Christian community. Wishing you all a blessed holy day. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, moving along, I have now Councilman Hale.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it's often been said that the first step to recovery is admitting that you have a problem. And as you've heard tonight, all of the council, particularly Councilman George, have recognized some of the difficulties that we had during the snowstorm. And so I think it is important to point out that that we recognize that this was not the best effort that we had, and I wanted to apologize and say that I'm sorry that that we didn't do better. We have done better in the past, and we will do better in the future. You heard Councilman George talk quite a bit about some of the things that are on the list. I've sent these to the Public Works Committee that will be working on many of them, and I do believe that in the future we will have a better outcome and a better plan for how we deal with snows like this. As we've heard, this is quite a storm, and but I do think we can make some improvements. Councilman George mentioned many of them that are sort of on my list. Certainly, we need to identify equipment and our equipment needs. Those little cubatas that have been flying around certainly seem to have made a big difference. I'm glad to hear that we're considering some of those. Temporary snow parking options. I've had a lot of people come up to me saying that, back in the day, they used to be able to park in Donaldson Park overnight. And, maybe those are other things that we can consider. Councilman George mentioned clarity on the curb cuts and how we figure those out. So those are certainly other things that we can do. Different staffing operations and all of those. Those are also things that I think the committee is considering. I know that the Public Works Department and Terry are all sort of working on those as well. I just wanted to add that I think one of the other things that we need to work on is how we communicate what's going on, whether that's a communication about where some problems are. I don't think that picking up a phone and yelling at whoever answers it at Department of Public Works or posting it on Facebook are necessarily the best ways to get knowledge out about where the problems are. So maybe we can explore different ways of making that process a little bit better. We certainly can do a better job, I think, of updating frequently what's going on as it's going on in some mechanism. So some of the communication aspects of the storm, I think, are things that we can also work to improve on. I do believe that we have a group of people who are committed to making improvements. I do believe that we have the capacity to make those improvements and to do better next time. We've done better in the past, and we certainly can do better in the future. And I just wanted to say that as a councilman, I apologize for not doing better this time. So I'm hoping that we will be able to make those improvements. I'm confident we will be able to make those improvements as we move forward. Those have already started. Those discussions have already started, and I think that we will see those come to fruition. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councilman. And I'm glad you brought up communications because I think it's important for folks to know a couple of things. One is the best way to get to each of us or any of us with a concern is to go to the borough's website at hpboro.com and click on the report and online reporting. Once you click on that, you'll have an option to put in what your issue is or whatever you want to talk about, and to send it to whomever on the council you would like to send it to, including me. Also, just so folks know, I know a lot of people were expecting us to respond to them on several different Facebook pages. Please know that because of Oprah, we cannot get into borough business on pages that we do not control. And that's a whole other explanation, which we can give you if you're interested. Again, so the best way to reach us with concerns, particularly if, as in the last snowstorm, if you had an issue with your block, your house, or whatever, if you write us on that site that you can reach on hpboro.com, will get your message and can easily forward it to the folks who can take care of it. So thank you for bringing up communications, Councilman. Okay, next up is Councilwoman Foster. Do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, thanks. I also want to echo in on the snow situation that we have. Unfortunately, it is winter, and we've been down this path many times before, and our streets are not getting bigger, but I'm not going to get into that. I want to thank DPW for the job that they did and going out there and sacrificing their day off and the hours that they put in. There is a state law, for people who don't know, that you can only work X amount of hours during a snowstorm. And there are labor laws involved too, where people can work X amount of hours without killing themselves. Slavery's been over a long time, and we all want to drive around and have good access to a road, but we need to consider the human factor behind the snowplow, the human factor that's making it happen, that they have families too, and they want to go home to their families. On my block, I have DPW workers that I've seen totally exhausted, because once they remove the snow from the street, they have to come home and remove the snow from their homes. And I just want to thank them for the job that they did. Nothing is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. But thank you, everyone in DPW who worked so hard to give us access so we can go back and forth. With that said, Police Community Forum. That's a few dates. March 18th, we're going to have our first community forum, and the next one will be on June 17th, then September 30th and December 16th. We will be sending out information on our social media page and Nixle and what have you. So about our upcoming forum, and we're going to be looking to have a full discussion with everyone. There will be Q&A, and people can ask questions and get answers and what have you. So we're looking forward to that meeting. Teen Center. Teen Center has been doing a phenomenal job. They have been doing, having students come in who do not have access to Wi-Fi and have them do their work at the Teen Center. And not only do their work at the Teen Center, but also go outside and play basketball and have some recreation at times. They have been doing food distribution there as well, and they've been having many Zoom events. So they are doing well. The students are really appreciative of the Teen Center being there, especially at a time like this, when they don't have internet access at home, that there is a place, there's a safe place for them to go to, safe, warm, welcoming place. And not only that, there's food for them to eat while they're there. So I stopped by a couple of times, and they were really enjoying being in the Teen Center. Also, I just want to touch on quickly that, Tara, I thank you so much for your effort with the mental health issue. I have spoken to many persons who are going through a very hard time. There's one person in particular, a senior, who has family members living in California, and she has not been able to leave her house since March. And it's really challenging, and she feels like the walls are closing in. So just anything that can be of support to people during this horrendous time and where people are really suffering mentally is going to help a lot. So thank you for taking the lead on this and making it happen. Let me see. Okay, Code Blue, the mayor is going to be talking about Code Blue along with Pastor Seth, I believe that's coming up. And then Black History Month continues for, I think there's a good movie that a lot of people should watch and understand what the prison pipeline, the incarceration, the injustice, and everything else that has been going on in the US, and it's called The 13th. It's on Netflix. It's still free for the entire month. So this is a really good way of understanding what's going on and how the prison pipeline work and everything else, the mass incarceration that has been going on against Black and brown people in the US. I think this is well worth watching, and people should watch it. And then I think have opportunities to have discussion on it, because I think it's one way for us to become educated and much, much more informed. Oh, I forgot to mention that during the snowstorm, there were no tickets issued, because this has come up, that our police department was issuing people's ticket. There was no tickets issued for snow, for people who are illegally parked or anything like that. There was no issued ticket. No one was ticketed at all. So that's really important. There were citations given about people not removing snow from their area, and that is causing hindrances. So there were citations issued for that, but no one was there. There was no one going around writing tickets. And along with the snow, we're getting a lot more of it. So I heard many of you say that you're going to be doing whatever you can to help those who are going to be, I guess, snowbound and impacted. They say Friday we're going to get what's coming, what they have in Texas. So I guess we really got to get ready for this huge snowfall that's coming, and keep our promises to do whatever we can to help those who are going to be majorly impacted, especially those who are homebound and depend on people to bring meals in and that kind of thing. With that said, thank you, Mayor, and that's the end of my report for now.
Okay, thank you, Elsie. That's a reminder also, Terry, if we could get the list of snow shovelers back up on the website, on the Facebook page and the website, that would be great. Okay. Borough Administrator, do you have a report?
Well, I feel like the topic of snow is well trodden, and I guess what I would offer, only thing is I just want residents to know, and I too am one, that this is on, we are working on kind of debriefing from what happened, taking in the feedback that we've gotten both from the residents, our own experiences, as well as the mayor and the council, and we are revising our protocols. We're also, I think, one important dynamic that does make this a challenge is kind of the blending of the different areas of borough government that are impacted. We have public works who have to clear the roadways, clear borough properties, but we also have code enforcement, we have the police department. So we have these different units and they do work really well together during these snowstorms, but we are looking at our protocols across all those areas to try to see where there's areas for improvement, refinement, all the things that everybody's already said. So it is definitely a high priority, and I'm personally convinced that I think we're going to see a lot of yo-yoing of weather, be it snow, extreme heat. You know, we're going to see these kinds of dumps, and then we'll have dry spells, and we have to be prepared for kind of different eventualities, and that the playbook is going to be a challenge, but we are going to work to do our best to address them. So that's all I'll say on that at this point, because I think you guys did a great job yourselves. The only other thing that was on my list, only because there are two ordinances on tonight, and it's a topic of much favorite topic in the borough about roads. And we do have two ordinances on. Those are basically reflect the projects associated with two state aid funding buckets, one from fiscal year 2020 and one from 2021. And I'll just quickly read through the roads. There are also some roads we will be looking to add into those various projects, looking at where PSE&G is either coming, because they're coming back. We're trying to not have roads paved more than once unnecessarily, and we're coordinating that with PSE&G very closely. And we're also trying to go double back to some of the areas that were only half paved, to see if we can go the remainder through the upcoming couple of road projects that are coming up. So I'll just mention, although I think I've reviewed these before, but I know it is a high priority for residents. I also will add that if you go to the website under Departments, Public Works, Street Maintenance, I list them there, and as changes or different things happen, we try to keep that current. So if you don't take this down, know that you can find it online. But for this year, kind of on the front deck, already been engineered, and we're kind of poised to send it over to the state for approval, because they have to approve all of our roads that are going to be built into the projects that they fund. South 6th Ave between Magnolia and Benner, South 9th Avenue between Eden and Graham, North 9th Ave between Raritan and Abbott, Benner Street, North 7th to South 9th, Barnard Street, Woodbridge to Central, We're also looking to add Cliff Court because we had experienced some significant drainage issues over there. So in order to address that, we're going to have to address Cliff Court, as well as Lincoln Avenue, some of the stretch where PSC and Juliet was only able to do half of the part that they disturbed. We want to go back, take advantage of the half that they did do and complete. So those are on deck. And lastly, while the primary funding is from the county, although we have a contribution, we're looking at Woodbridge Avenue, 10th Avenue to Fox Road will be done hopefully this year if all goes well. And we also will be taking care of some of the grading and other issues on the side streets from that stretch of Woodbridge Ave on, which I know has been a source of problems for pedestrians and so forth over the years with pooling water and so forth. And also as part of that project, that whole area will be brought up to ADA standards, including the crosswalk at the Irving School. So I think it's going to be a very good project for that part of town and for all of us. And so I look forward to that. And then coming up most likely in 2022, depending on how the bidding process goes, we're also looking at North 10th Avenue, Abbott to Raritan, South 10th Avenue, Raritan to Woodbridge, Lexington Avenue, Raritan to the municipal border, Alcazar Avenue, Central to Cherry, Aurora, South 9th to South 11th, and then South 1st Avenue. And I should mention Aurora and South 1st have an asterisk only because we know PSC&G is coming and we have to wait and see what they do disturbance-wise before we come and we negotiate with them. So they are on the list and they're on the website, but those have the asterisk because PSC&G has informed us that they're next up on their program for the coming year. So I just share that with you because there's ordinance on tonight to basically implement these programs, and and we'll be continuing. And I know following the storm, potholes are going to be emerging left and right, and I would encourage anybody who notices one to utilize that report of concern function. The Public Works crew does note them when they're out about on their regular duties, but we don't mind those notices, or if it's easier to just shoot an email, feel free to do that. But we are aware that that isn't, now that the roads have cleared, albeit temporarily, we are going to have to go back and do some cold patching to get us through the rest of the season. But I've seen them myself. I know that the snow had popped those up. So that's all I had for this evening, Mayor, unless I forgot something you wanted me to cover.
No, I think that's great. Thank you. And Councilwoman Foster, I saw you had your hand up. Did you forget something in your report?
Yes, I did. I was just corrected by the chief. He told me that they did issue tickets during this after the snow for people who did not remove the snow from their sidewalks, and they did some towing and to make sure that public emergency vehicles could have clearance. I will also let the chief chime in. Chief, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, good. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. During the date range that we were looking at, we did issue 8 parking tickets. We handled 23 calls that we needed to move cars. We had 5 calls regarding uncleared sidewalks during the date range that we were talking about. No summonses were issued for them. We were able to clear them by contacting business owners, or we were able to, by the time we got there, we found that the sidewalks were in fact cleared satisfactorily. So we did write a few parking tickets. We did tow some cars. I'm not sure what code enforcement did, if they issued any summonses or not. But for the date ranges we were talking about tonight, those were the numbers we had.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Elsie?
I'm good for now.
Okay. And Borough Attorney, if you could just wait a second. I see Councilwoman Kim Cho-han raising her hand as well. Stephanie, did you miss something?
Yeah, for the chief, I know some residents, and actually I was tagged and I'm not sure if I should have replied, but even I didn't have the correct answer on the signage that says no parking when snow road is covered, to kind of like define that, like, so you don't park as long as there's any snow there. Do you park during a snowstorm? Like, can the chief like kind of let the residents like know exactly what's the rule? Oh, the law, sorry.
Go ahead, Chief.
So basically, if the plows are out plowing, if they're actively working, that constitutes for us a snow emergency, and then all the snow emergency parking rules take effect. Generally, when that happens, we do nixle messages, we do notifications on our social media and the borough website, and the officers at night or during the day, depending on what's going on and when it's happening, will actually, as they drive down the street on their PA, they'll chirp their horns and sirens and announce that the snow removal is happening and that the emergency parking is in effect. To please move cars. Do what you need to do so we can get the roads cleared. We do the best we can to try to let people know. I know some officers go and knock on doors if they can figure out who the car belongs to. We try, but the rule of thumb is basically if the plows are out actively working, then the snow emergency parking rules are in effect. So you have to follow the signs that are parked. You can go to the borough webpage and under the borough code, you can actually pull up one of the, I think it's Schedule 6, and that lists all the streets that have the snow emergency parking and where you can't park. And that's out there all year, so people can look at that whenever. We did have a couple issues, I think, where some people took down the snow emergency signs. That was addressed to address satisfactorily to us and to DPW. But it's a challenge, and we know Highland Park there's a lot of people. There's not a lot of parking spots. There was a lot of snow this time. The plows are big, and to try to make everything work so we can get through there was definitely a challenge. But we do the best we can to try to let people know before we resort to towing. We don't just tow as a knee-jerk reaction. We go through steps to get there before we tow or ticket. So
Council President Phil George and Borough Administrator, I think it would be better for us to have a more definitive answer for residents to Stephanie's question. In other words, if it's 2 inches of snow, you don't have to move it, but if it's 10 inches of snow or whatever the number is, I think as you put your plan together and the communication of whatever it is that we come up with, there should be some clarity to what is, besides if you see a snowplow going down the street. So please put that on in your thinking as you work on this.
Yeah, Mayor, we do we do have it for the agenda. And given the way that we meet with the Public Works Committee, I wrote a note to myself today that we're probably going to, we have a regular monthly meeting so that we don't miss out on business. We're going to need to schedule some extra ones. We have a lot of topics, and one of the things is a clarification of what the present ordinance requires. And I think, quite frankly, we're going to end up revising that to make it a little more clear and to bring it forward.
Thank you very much. Borough Attorney, finally, do you have a report for us?
I do just a very brief one, Madam Mayor, regarding outdoor dining. The governor signed legislation on February 5th, I believe, making outdoor dining available across the state. And that also includes allowing, and the municipalities are the ones that, give authority for the expansion of dining outdoors. But the business owners are also allowed to ask the Alcoholic Beverage Commission to permit them to expand their beverage license to the outdoor dining area as well. So I just wanted to alert you and the council to that.
So a question came up, I think it was even last year, about outdoor dining and liquor. If the municipality has its own, what Councilman Hale aptly named town tables, can residents take the liquor that they get from the restaurant to one of the town tables, or does it have to be consumed in front of the restaurant or adjacent to the restaurant? You don't have to answer that right now.
I'm going to have to look at that because the law that was signed deals specifically with allowing the license owner to serve the alcohol outside, assuming they get permission to do that. We'll have to look at whether or not that would also extend to the town tables.
Okay, and
We can
Borough
take a look at that.
Administrator, you had your hand up
I
about
think, I think Lucille was heading down the right path. I think the way I read the memo, and I recall from the prior round of authorization, the operator who has the license makes the application, but the municipality has to say, we're good with that. And there, I thought there might be an adjacency, somewhat of a requirement, but I think we need to look at that to answer your question more precisely.
Okay. So Lucille, if you could look into that, that would be helpful.
I will do that, and we'll get an answer back to you as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, time for my report. Okay, as Councilwoman Foster mentioned, I do want to talk about our Code Blue, and on behalf of all of us, I want to extend our warmest thanks to the Reformed Church of Highland Park in partnering with us on the coldest days of the year. Thank you. Due to the COVID-19 considerations, we are extra cautious about the use of our buildings, staff, and volunteers at this time. Yet dire human needs remain constant even during a pandemic. This partnership has allowed us to provide the borough's Code Blue overnight on especially cold nights. Any residents needing shelter on a cold night may call the Highland Park Police Department at 732-572-3800 for more information. And as you can see, we have Pastor Seth here with us tonight, and our good friend Paul, who has been helping out with all the services there. Seth, Paul, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to speak for just a moment, and then I'll turn it over to Paul. Just brief history. Last year, the borough worked to take the lead in Code Blue in the Senior Youth Center. And as well as it went, it was also tricky, partly because of the politics of new laws with Code Blue that changed the temperature at which Code Blue was to be implemented. And while our town complied, many of the surrounding towns did not. So we had a small borough handling the homelessness needs for major neighboring towns, which I'll leave to your imagination. But we did a good job, and I was proud of the work. But this year with COVID, we had to be more careful. I'm thankful for the borough administrator and for the social worker working with us to come up with a plan. And there's a apartment over the Main Street Highland Park building that wasn't being used. One of our colleagues who works for Interfaith Rise and who came here as a refugee not 2 years ago, Paul Rubentuari, agreed to move into that house and to manage Code Blue. And since November 17th, 52 nights he's had guests, 75 different guests, 28 individuals who've been there 75 nights. So that's 75 people who got a good night's sleep on the coldest nights of the year. We've been available about 65 nights. That's approximately how many nights Code Blue was called, but only on 52 nights did we have takers. And the numbers have ranged from 1 to 4 people a night. Also beautifully, because of Code Blue being connected to the Reformed Church's Affordable Housing Corporation, through Paul's insight with folks, he's been able to see if there are some folks who are ready for permanent supportive housing. And 2 individuals who spent multiple nights in the Code Blue house have now been placed in permanent supportive housing within our housing corp. So they're not repeat customers anymore. Our numbers would be higher, but we don't want them higher. We want the numbers of permanent housing higher. So I just wanted to give Paul a minute to share about kind of what he actually does with the Code Blue program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's been really a hard time, unprecedented time for everybody during this time of Code Blue, because you don't know who's coming and the way have been, whatever it bring in. Like to every customer, I have to take temperature. I have to explain what, the rules for the house. Don't do this, don't do that. And you found some other people, they take it serious. Other people, they don't take it. It's hard for everybody. But I'm trying to minimize whatever I can, and just to save them the way I can. But also I thank the Reformed Church because they've been helping much about the meals. some coffee, and there's some other client that they have nowhere to go. They have been offered a place to stay warm during the day, that can have like a dinner or lunch or coffee during that time, which is really helpful to every of our client or whoever attending Cold Blue. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Seth. And Paul, we are so grateful that you found your home here in Highland Park and are helping so many people.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Borough Administrator, did you want to add
I
something?
just have to piggyback, and I have to say how great the partnership has been with the Affordable Housing Corp and Seth and Paul, and it really has been a team approach, and Seth and I talk about this all the time. And I also would say, I cannot let this go without saying that Emma Missy from my office, as well as our dispatchers and whoever's manning the phones over at the police department, have also really, we've all kind of pulled together and modified our protocols, and we continue to modify our protocols to make this all work. And it's nice when things work out. Even though I'm sorry for the reason it has to be there, I'm grateful for these partners that we built and this approach, and we'll see what the future brings as we refine further.
Thank you both very, very much.
I have 10 seconds. I would just like to say that it is important that we provide Code Blue for this borough first, because really every town's to do it, but it's also important to be good neighbors. So I've been thankful that on nights when we haven't had 4 people and we could handle more, Paul has been open to saying if 211 is called and there's folks in another community who don't have a place, we can receive someone in a neighborly way. And so we haven't just gone like totally insular. I just wanted to say that that's been appreciated too across the board.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to, I'm going to move on in my report here. Councilman Hirsch mentioned the vaccination program before. I want to recognize the efforts of our staff at the Highland Park Community Center, who took on this Herculean task of assisting our seniors in procuring COVID-19 vaccines over the past few weeks. The staff, Kim, Andrea, Nicole, Kimberly, and Janet, fielded over 120 phone calls in 2 weeks and gave our seniors informed advice on state hotlines, resources, and websites. We're hearing now that our seniors are getting callbacks from the state finally and beginning to schedule appointments. There is one community member who helped our staff make all this possible. Abby Stern Cardinale recognized the overwhelming need of many of our residents for help in procuring these vaccination appointments. She provided an unbelievable level of support, street smarts, and just plain hustle. She has single-handedly learned how to master a mystifying system. Our most enthusiastic thanks to Abby, who while caring for her and Daniel's 2 young daughters and fielding her full-time job, also managed to schedule vaccination appointments for many of our seniors and also others throughout the borough who sought out her help. Abby, you are a wonder worker. Thank you. And I do want to say, Matt Hirsch, it was the first time I heard that Rebecca was also working on this effort. So I want to also applaud Rebecca's efforts for whatever she's been doing to help us out. Thank you.
Not nearly as Herculean as Abby, but has helped teachers, has worked with Abby to help teachers. Some teachers get vaccinated too, because great. They're now going back into the buildings.
Now, speaking of COVID, I know there has been some concern about my reporting of the COVID-19 new cases in Highland Park. However, I believe it is important for all of you to know where we are and where we are heading in terms of community spread. Today, I'm happy to say that thus far, the month of February seems to be heading in the right direction, meaning a lower level of transferred cases versus December and January. While December saw a total of 161 new cases in Highland Park and January had 187 new cases. So far, with half a month of February in, we have 54 reported cases. If we continue on that same track, we'll be looking at 108 cases, and that is considerably lower than December and January, but still trending higher than each month of 2020, March through November. So that tells me we are doing better, but we still have a long way to go. I'm urging our businesses not to ignore the governor's 35% indoor capacity executive order. I am urging residents and visitors to Highland Park to wear a mask when in public. In fact, the CDC now encourages double masking. Please remember to stay 6 feet apart and wash your hands often. Park Partners 2021. Folks, it's that time again. Park Partners is coming to you this year via Zoom. All residents are invited to participate in a Zoom session this Sunday, February 21st, starting at 1 p.m., where you'll hear from 13 people who've submitted proposals for Park Partners 2021 funding. Under the annual Park Partners grant program, the borough invites applications, holds a public review and voting session, and then provides up to $2,000 each to help execute 5 winning projects. And you, our residents, get to decide who the winners are. This year's proposals include the following submissions: ferns, grasses, and fencing for Highland Park Native Plant Sanctuary. We Are Highland Park, an outdoor exhibit of photos. The Highland Park Outdoor Movie Theater. The Highland Park Arts Commission Memorial Bench Project. Highland Park High School Rocket Propulsion Lab. The Rack on Tour Bookmobile. Promoting STEM Diversity, Highland Park High School Robotics Club initiatives. Social distancing circles painted on outdoor field with removable striping chalk. Pelvic and hip strength group class. Accessible outdoor dining. Head of the Raritan Regatta 2021, which is a rowing competition. Wellness and Inclusion for Class of 2022, Highland Park High School Class Initiative. Sponsor a tutor, Raising Hand Tutoring. The Zoom session will include brief presentations from the author of each proposal, then voting by participants for their selection in each category. The winners of the Park Partners 2017 vote will be announced at the end of Sunday's Zoom session. For the Zoom link, please see the Borough website. And I'll ask Carrie also to get it up on our Facebook page again. One unfortunate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in our town has been a widening of the digital divide, which was discussed briefly before. While a large share of the public has access to online information and uses these channels comfortably, a segment of the population, particularly those of more limited means and seniors, report difficulty in obtaining information on local news and services. To address this glaring gap in communication, this year, the borough developed and began disseminating a limited run 4-page quarterly print newspaper with current news from the mayor and council. It's called it's called the Highland Park News. And, oh, thank you, Terry. There you go. And it includes information from the governing body, the Highland Park Community Center, the public library, the police department, Main Street Highland Park, and DPW. Copies of the newsletter were placed in Borough Hall, the community center, senior housing buildings, the library, at Dunkin' Donuts, Quick Check, Highland Park Pizza, and other locations throughout town. I thank our communication staff, Monica and Harry, for spearheading this initiative. And here we are at our second and last council meeting during American History Month, Black American History Month. And one of the things I'd like to do, as I did last meeting, is share a story of a role model from our community during this African American History Month. This week, I recognize Kenny Haskins. Few African American families have roots as long and deep and strong in Highland Park as does Kenny Haskins and his clan. His grandfather, Edward Haskins, was the first African American property owner in town, managing 3 properties on the South Side in the 1940s. His father, Alex, worked for the Highland Park Water Department, and his mother, Mary, worked for E.R. Squibb. Both of them and Kenny served as members of the Highland Park Police Reserve, assisting the HPPD at events, riding with them on Halloween and mischief nights, and enforcing decorum in municipal court. And his brother, Ronald Haskins, served as Highland Park's chief in the 1990s, chief of police, I should say. Kenny organized a variety of youth activities in town over the past few decades. Working as an event planner, he held dances, graduation gatherings, holiday parties, and more. He also planned and held a number of basketball events to involve youth. Later, he founded his own entertainment company and held showcases at the Reformed Church of Park, which allowed kids to build their confidence and skills. Additionally, he volunteered in town serving as a coach for HP Recreation baseball and basketball teams, an umpire for the Little League baseball team, and a member of the Highland Park Recreation Committee. Later in his career, Kenny worked as a musician with the Proud Nubians, serving as rapper and singer with the group for 6 years in 1990s. Afterwards, he formed Mile Long Entertainment, which recruited young people for opportunities in singing, rapping, and musical performing. One of the group's star acts was the Mile Long Boys, which featured volunteer and Zone 6 Teen Center coordinator Ashton Burrell as a rapper. Kenny is married to Maggie, an administrative assistant at Auto Injury Solutions. They have 2 sons, Tariq, 32, and Altir, 29, who both also performed in the Mile Long Boys group. In April of 2020, Kenny and his family moved to Somerset, but he still maintains a strong connection and commitment to Highland Park, serving as a resource and support to young African-American men in the borough through Ashton's live mentorship program. He's also played the role of Santa Claus in holiday parties at the Teen Center for the last 2 years. The borough is pleased to recognize Kenny Haskins and his family's long history and service to our town, and we hope to see him around Highland Park often. Thank you, Kenny. Okay. We're now up to our public participation. The total time allowed now is 21 minutes, 3-minute maximum per speaker. Comments are limited to items on the agenda. If you want to speak on an item that is not listed on the agenda, please do so at the second public comment section later in the meeting. The borough clerk will monitor the time and indicate when 3 minutes has lapsed. She will give you a warning when there is 30 seconds remaining. There will be a hard stop at the 3-minute mark to make sure everyone has time to speak. As a reminder, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement if it does not adhere to the 3 minutes provided, or if the statement is abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone keypad or select the raise hand button in the application. The borough administrator will announce your turn by reading out your name or the last 4 digits on your phone number. Please begin by telling us your first and last name as well as your address. Again, if you would like to speak about a topic on the agenda, please press star 9 or the raise hand button now.
All right, Mayor, is it my turn to call?
Please.
For the record, we are at 27 attendees, and as of right now, I see 5 hands raised. First up, I see Jeff Bardaro. Please state your name and address and take it from there.
This is Jeff Bardaro. I live on Wayne Street. I just wanted to call attention to item 19A on the work session agenda. As a member and one of the co-chairs of the Mayor's Equity Advisory Council, I wanted to make sure the public knows and the council knows that the Equity Advisory Council unanimously voted to support this resolution and urge the Borough Council to take action on it. The resolution is about Senate Bill 2656 and Assembly Bill 5301, which addresses transparency in police records. We've learned through our work with the Advisory Council that it is very difficult to access most of the police records that people might expect citizens and government officials to be able to access, including internal investigation records and disciplinary records for police officers. It's really important to our work on the council and to the work of anybody who wants reform or transparency in policing in New Jersey to support this. Our understanding from the meeting, at least at the time of the meeting last week, was that none of our local elected officials at the state office level have signed on yet as co-sponsors of this bill. And one of the purposes of the council supporting a resolution like this is to urge them to do so and to let them know that local governments in our area are interested in police transparency and interested in them supporting our work in that area. And I also just wanted to say, just in terms of the process of it, we received this resolution from the Middlesex Black Jewish Coalition and other groups who are interested in this issue. And the Equity Advisory Council is always interested in hearing from the public with things that they want brought to the attention of the Borough Council and the Mayor. And we're here to help with that as best we can. So if you can contact us and let us know about these things, we're happy to put it on a meeting agenda and talk about it and give whatever support we can to it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, anybody else?
Next up is Rebecca Sipis. I've unmuted you. Please just state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Sipis, and I live at 52 Brookdale Court in Highland Park. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and also representing the Middlesex Black Jewish Coalition. I'd like to thank the Equity Council, the Mayor, Councilmember Foster, the entire Borough Council for discussing the adoption of a resolution in support of Senate Bill 2656 and Assembly Bill 5301. As you know, this bill is crucial for advancing equity and justice for all in our state. The Highland Park Borough Council can show itself to be true leaders, as we know you are, in the quest for transparency and accountability by adopting this resolution. As you know, S2656 and A5301 would make police disciplinary records subject to the Open Public Records Act. It would also bring New Jersey into line with the many other states that already grant much more public access to police disciplinary records. As a visibly Jewish woman with a family who are also visibly Jewish, I'm well aware of the crucial role that police play in keeping our community safe. Specifically, I'm thinking of deterrence of threats engendered by the alarming rise in hate crimes and hate-based attacks across our country. However, we're all threatened when there's a lack of accountability in policing, as there currently is, because police records are not subject to OPRA in New Jersey. Policing can only work effectively if there's trust between police and the communities they serve. And that trust can only come from transparency. We can only begin to repair broken trust if we commit to that transparency. So Senate Bill 2656 and Assembly Bill 5301 offer us the best path forward by requiring transparency and accountability, which are in all of our best interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, anybody else?
I've got 2 more hands raised. I see John Valeri. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, John Valeri, 106 South 6th Avenue. In regards to the snow removal and the amount of Department of Public Works employees that were dispatched, and I understand that there's a state mandate of a certain amount of hours that a public works personnel is allowed to work. What is the possibility of doing something like hiring temps to help out the Department of Public Works, getting more, workers? I mean, almost like a temporary worker, just like a seasonal worker, just to help get rid of the snow. What's the possibility of that?
So I'm going to turn that over to either Council President Phil George or the Borough Administrator.
Since I'm unmuted, I'll jump in. I see Phil's still muted. What I would say is to Mr. Valeri is I believe we're considering all sorts of alternatives. There may be some union considerations on temporary workers that we have to look at, but there are other options in terms of we're looking at manpower, we're looking at alternatives, and so I it's in the hopper, I guess is the best way I would put it.
All right. The other question I have is in terms of equipment, because yesterday I was on my way somewhere and I saw someone in another town utilizing a riding snowblower. And for a lot of our side streets that weren't plowed properly, especially, the streets where there's about a good 2-3 feet of snow, what would be the possibility, going into the street from the sidewalk, what would be the possibility of getting our Department of Public Works personnel to utilize riding snow blowers?
I'm going to ask Council President Phil George to answer that question because he's been talking about equipment.
Yes, John, thank you for your comment. One of the more useful pieces that I think DPW can use as opposed to a homeowner is actually our Kubotas. It's the thing you see them scooting around town on. It looks like an ATV with a cabin on it. Sometimes it has a plow. In the summertime, it's got a tank on the back.
30 seconds.
We found that using, as I said before, our payloaders and backhoes to get out on the side streets and actually be able to move some of this unbelievably heavy snow was actually better. For the borough uses snow blowers, and I think that a riding snow blower is a good idea for what we do, but to be blowing snow off the road toward the verge where people have cars parked, you get a stone that can flip up and hit a person or the car. The Kubotas, the small plows that can get close to cars or in between cars, is one of the things that Mike and I were actually discussing during the storm itself. Our present Kubota has a plow and not a bucket. So we're looking at specs for the next one that can get a plow or a bucket on it as well.
All right, thank you.
Borough Administrator, do we have another hand?
Yes, we do. Hold on, let me just follow my procedure, otherwise I get confused. Next up is a phone number. The last 4 digits are 4445. Please state your name and address for the record, please. Hello?
Hi, Lois Loving, North 2nd Avenue, but my question was answered both by Jeff and Rebecca's explanation of the Senate bill. So that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Okay. Welcome.
Anybody else?
Yep, we have, hold on a moment. Looks like Eric Lipton is next. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Eric Lipton. I live on 123 South Adelaide. I'm a Sagittarius. I've been a resident for 15 years, and that's been a lot of snowstorms. Look, I want to say I really appreciate the kind words and promises being made tonight. Look, I know nobody wanted this to happen, but I've heard some comments tonight that I need to kind of call out for a second. First, Councilman George told the Accessibility Commission that the DPW had 2 workers out since mid-fall. I would have to say that, well, I think the others wouldn't have had to work so long or come in on their holiday, maybe, if that staffing issue may not have been there. Councilman Hale and Mayor Mittler, you mentioned communication, but you got to understand, a lot of us went to Facebook. I know I was one of the people who was annoying on Facebook, and I'm sorry. I tried never to be personal, but I was angry and scared by this. I waited a full week before using the town website to contact DPW. I attended the Accessibility Council meeting. I brought up my own block with 3 council members, and it still took a week later for it to be addressed. So yeah, of course we're going to use Facebook. All right, like what else? To Councilperson Foster, no one is criticizing the workers. Not one person, I hope, is criticizing the workers. I would say the best way to honor them is having enough. We wouldn't be talking about everybody having to work on their holidays if there were enough workers. And that gets to my concern. I feel like I'm hearing excuses amidst the apologies, and that's not how this should work. Fixing what happened requires understanding what went wrong. And it's not just equipment and staffing or hours, it's also attitude. Inaccessibility is not just an inconvenience, it's about safety. And it's not just about safety, it's a form of discrimination. It's discrimination to the elderly, to the disabled, and anyone with mobility challenges. Excuse me?